like, comment, subscribe, or you might never hear the truth about what happens inside the world's darkest prisons. The words echoed through Detective Mara Hale's mind as she stepped out of the black SUV and into the freezing morning air. Ahead of her, a swarm of officers crowded around the entrance of a shuttered warehouse on the outskirts of Greeley, Colorado. Their radios hissed with urgency. The sky was an unsettling shade of gray, the kind that warned storms were coming, the kind that always arrived on the worst possible days. Inside that warehouse, according to an anonymous tip that had hit the FBI tip line at 3:14 a.m., was a man who wasn't supposed to exist anymore. A man officially documented as permanently contained under the Supermax Protocol at ADX Florence. A man who was supposed to be locked away forever. When Mara ducked under the police tape, she saw the source of the chaos, a trail of footprints leading through a broken side door and into the heavy darkness beyond it. Officers had already searched the perimeter. No signs of a suspect. No signs of forced escape. But inside the warehouse, they found something far stranger. A chair. A single metal chair. And on it, sitting perfectly upright, was a file, clean, crisp, government-issued. But the smell, that metallic, cold scent, told Mara something was wrong. "Show me," she said, nodding to the evidence tech. He handed her a pair of gloves. She opened the file. Inside was a sealed disciplinary report from ADX Florence. And stamped in red across the top was a classification she'd only seen twice in her entire career. Supermax Protocol, Level 0 Isolation. Subject, Keaton Wells. Mara's breath hitched. Keaton Wells wasn't just any inmate. He was the mastermind behind one of the most complex interstate surveillance crimes in the last decade, hacking, identity theft, and the orchestration of a financial collapse that had nearly wiped out a regional banking system. A ghost in the data stream. A man with no fingerprints, no digital footprint, and no remorse. He had vanished into ADX Florence years ago. No trial updates. No interviews. No public record after intake. He was, essentially, deleted. Then, hours ago, the anonymous tip. A single sentence, he's out. But the real question wasn't how. It was why now. Mara flipped through the remaining papers in the file. The last page stopped her cold. It was a surveillance screenshot, grainy, low resolution, taken from inside the Supermax. A man in an orange jumpsuit, head down, sitting at a steel desk. But the timestamp was from last night, which meant the inmate in the screenshot and the tip claiming he had escaped were contradicting each other. Either he was out, or he was still inside. He couldn't be both. Something was off, deeply off. An officer rushed toward her. "Detective Hale, you need to see this." She followed him behind a stack of old shipping containers. The moment she saw it, her stomach tightened. A phone. A government-issued inmate phone, the type welded to the wall inside the isolation units at Florence. Except this one was lying on the concrete floor, its cord torn cleanly at the base. It shouldn't exist outside the prison. It couldn't, but it was there. And its screen was glowing with a single unread message. Mara picked it up carefully as the screen flickered. Look deeper. 2 words. No sender. No timestamp. "What is this?" she murmured. The officer shook his head. "We don't know. But it gets weirder. Check the back." Mara flipped the phone over. Scratched into the metal casing were 3 numbers, desperate, uneven, carved by hand. C. 214. Her brain immediately connected the dots. C. 214 wasn't a phone number. It wasn't a passcode. It wasn't a location in any known federal system. It was a cell number. A cell inside ADX Florence. Keaton Wells's isolation cell. Mara steadied her breathing. Her pulse was thundering now. This wasn't an escape. This wasn't a ransom message. This was something else, a breadcrumb trail laid by someone who wanted her specifically to follow it. But why her? Before she could think further, the evidence tech called out, his voice trembling. "Detective Hale, we found something else. You're going to want to come downstairs." "Downstairs," she repeated. "There's a basement." And the door was locked from the inside. Mara followed him through a narrow hallway to a set of rusted steel stairs. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The only light came from the officers' flashlights slicing through the darkness. At the bottom was a heavy door scarred with fresh scrape marks. As they pried it open, Mara's pulse quickened, because what she saw inside the room was something no one outside ADX Florence was ever supposed to witness. The exact layout of a Supermax isolation cell, recreated perfectly inside the warehouse. A full-scale replica. Steel bed. Concrete desk. Soundproof walls. And sitting in the middle of the floor was a single object. A key card from ADX Florence. But that wasn't the part that made Mara's breath catch. It was the message written on the wall above it, sprayed in a shaky line of blue paint. "You're next." And as Mara froze in place, every officer in the room realized the same thing. This wasn't a man escaping the Supermax. This was a man recreating it. And he wasn't running from something. He was preparing for someone. Snow was falling heavily by the time Detective Mara Hale reached her SUV. The cold bit through her gloves, but her mind was too tangled to feel it. The warehouse replica of a Supermax cell, the message on the wall, the key card, none of it lined up with the inmate the world believed was buried alive inside ADX Florence. Keaton Wells was brilliant, calculated, a man who spent years studying the weaknesses of systems built to break people. But this wasn't an escape. It was a lure, a map, a warning. And Mara couldn't shake the question gnawing at her. Why me? As she slid behind the wheel, her phone buzzed violently. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A voice whispered, sharp and breathless. "Detective Hale, they're lying to you. He's not inside. They just need you to believe he is." The call disconnected instantly. Mara stared at her screen. No traceable number. No callback option. Just a deadline and an echo of fear. She dialed the FBI liaison assigned to Wells's original case. "This is Hale. I need access to the Supermax Protocol files on Keaton Wells, all of them. Surveillance logs, movement schedules, psychological reports, the entire archive." A heavy pause. "Then, that request is classified beyond your clearance." "Then increase my clearance." "You know it's not that simple." She tightened her jaw.
"Fine.
"Then at least confirm this. Has anyone physically seen Wells in the last 72 hours? Another pause. Longer this time. "Mara, no one has physically seen Keaton Wells in over 16 months. The line went dead. Mara felt a slow chill crawl up her spine, the kind that didn't come from snow or wind. 16 months. No in-person checks. No movement logs. No official sightings. Yet the report in the warehouse was dated yesterday. Someone was forging documents inside the country's most secure prison. Or someone was rewriting reality. She started the engine and signaled her team. "I need full surveillance around this warehouse. Nobody goes in or out without clearance. If the replica cell is meant to send a message, we can't miss what comes next." As she pulled away, her phone buzzed again. This time a notification from the forensics team analyzing the key card. Results. Card is authentic. Biometric lock unused. Unused. That meant nobody had swiped it. It was either newly issued or intentionally planted. Her gut told her it was the latter. 20 minutes later, Mara pushed through the front doors of the regional FBI building. Lights flickered as agents moved with tense urgency. Word of the warehouse discovery had spread quicker than she expected. Assistant Director Cal Nolan stood waiting by the elevator. His suit was immaculate, but his eyes held a concern he rarely let show. "We need to talk," he said, guiding her into a briefing room. On the table was a laptop displaying grainy interior footage from ADX Florence. Timestamp: 9:14 p.m. last night. Camera: C block, cell 214. A figure sat at the steel desk, head lowered, shoulders squared. Keaton Wells. Or, at least someone who looked like him. "Surveillance confirms he's inside," Nolan said. "No," Mara countered. "Surveillance confirms someone is in that cell. Not that it's him." Nolan's jaw flexed. "What are you suggesting?" that someone could be staging footage, looping it, masking another inmate. Or worse, the cell could be empty, and we're watching a recording. Nolan leaned forward. Do you know what you're implying? That someone inside ADX is facilitating a cover-up. Mara looked him dead in the eyes. I'm implying that whatever is happening is bigger than a single inmate. The warehouse cell wasn't built overnight. Someone invested time, money, and access. Whoever tipped us wanted me there. Nolan's expression hardened. You're too close to this. I didn't even work Wells's original case. That's exactly why you're a problem, Nolan replied. Someone wants you involved. We don't know who or why. Before she could respond, a sharp knock hit the door. An agent stepped inside, pale. Sir, we just pulled the metadata from the phone found at the warehouse. And the agent swallowed. It pinged off a tower near Florence, less than 4 hours ago. Mara and Nolan locked eyes. Someone inside or near the Supermax had sent the phone out. And then the agent added something that hit harder than anything else that morning. The phone connected briefly to an internal network. Only one device linked back. Which device? Mara asked. The agent's voice shook. Cell 214's internal line. The room went silent. Someone in Wells's isolation cell had sent that message. But if Wells was inside, who built the replica cell? And if he wasn't, then who was sitting in that grainy surveillance footage? Mara didn't wait for permission. I'm going to Florence. Now. Nolan stepped into her path. Hale, you can't walk into a Supermax without authorization. She brushed past him. Then revoke my badge. Because she knew something now, something that changed everything. Whoever built that replica cell wasn't taunting her. They were preparing her. And if the message on the wall was true, she was already part of the protocol.